Alright, welcome everyone. I was not planning on streaming tonight, but sometimes when you have good fortune, you try to, make the most of it, I guess. So if you are watching this stream, whether that be, live or a replay, then I assume you are here because one of three things, I guess. Hopefully, maybe all three. You like my content, or you want to learn about this Cradle deck that is pretty underplayed. No, yeah, I make the joke that nobody really plays this deck outside of myself and Andrea Mangucci. More on that in a little bit. Or you want to know how to beat this deck. Let's just say for some reason your local metagame has a lot of these Cradle players. So I would assume you're here for one of the three things, or one of the three reasons. 1 second. I guess first and foremost, I guess a little bit. Let's get into the administrative stuff first. So before we dive into this deck and how this came about, I want to recommend a couple of things first. I got some questions about the podcast that I am a co-host on. Big props to Tony for essentially being the organizing a lot of what we do. But I'm part of the Brews of Paradise podcast, so if you want a sneak peek into certain things like secret identities and whatnot, you get the lowdown scoop here on Brews of Paradise. The other thing is, so this is a more of a generic brewing process, and I have a lot of respect for my co-hosts who I think are some of the sharpest minds when it comes to brewing. In Tony, Benedict, and Matt. So if you just want to be a generic deck builder, I would recommend a listen to us and what we could potentially offer for you, not just for Legacy, but just in general. Okay, let me close this for a second. The next thing I would recommend is Andrea Mangucci recently released a video and actually a podcast in general with only me, so just us two. He invited me on his podcast to discuss in detail this Legacy Golgari Cradle deck, and it released only last week. The contents of this deck, while the lists are this is Andrea's list here, but most of the concepts are still applicable, even if our lists are slightly different. And I think we do a pretty good job because I listened to it one time myself just to get a feel. And I think we do a pretty good job of discussing the pros and cons of like card choices and whatnot. Like the general consensus between Andrea and myself is there's a few key cards that we think are the core of the deck and that we don't disagree on. So for instance, the natural order and like the broken green cards like Natural Order, Green Sun Zenith, Once Upon a Time, like that. It's essentially the green Sylvan Syndicate, right? Which is the analog to the blue Cantrip Cartel. And obviously we both are in agreement that the best creature in this deck, and maybe one of just the best creatures period in Legacy, is Wire the Reliquary, which we have come to the conclusion, if you untap with it, you will win the game. Like, assuming you don't get comboed out. Like, that's the exception, I guess. But for the most part, if you untap with the Reliquary, you will win the game. But we'll go into that a little bit more later. So, yeah, just a plug for Andrea's website. Video here. There's a couple ways to consume this podcast, but I personally like the video version because you can see the cards. Okay, so next thing is what's it called? Here we go. I wasn't 100% sure I was gonna play this qualifier, and yesterday morning I woke up to a DM from Upa, who I would mention his real name, but he prefers to go by Upa for what's for, or Oppa. It's Korean for Big Brother. But he sent me his list that he was gonna play the event, and he hadn't played an event with Cradle in a long time. Now, the list he sent is just, if you look at the sideboard, you probably haven't seen this before, at least out of this deck. He ran what he had been, mentioning for a while. It wasn't just the morning of, but he just said, one of these days I'm gonna, run this for fun. Like 4 Chain of Smog, 4 Wither Bloom Apprentice, of course, can be found via, your Once Upon a Time, your Green Sun Zenith, as a sideboard juke. And I won't get into all the nitty gritty details because I don't know exactly how every round played out for him, but he did say he won majority, if not all, of his sideboard games because of this sideboard juke. So, and for what's worth, we did pair in the round 8. So that was the highlight for me out of this event because, I kind of just played this for fun, really. I wasn't 100% sure I was going to play because I don't really care about getting an RC invite. Like, I don't really have time at the moment. I mean, it's cool if I get it, right? I'll probably play, but it's not like I'm actively searching. And it just so happened that we were the last 2 7-0s. So here's myself as Tendrils. And here's Upa also at 7-0. So we were the last 2 7-0s, both on Cradle. Granted, slightly different lists. I'll quickly go over the matchups. Let's quickly go over the matchups. So to summarize, I played 9 rounds. I didn't play the quarterfinals against Upa because I just ran out of time, essentially. Like, I knew this was a possibility, and that's partially why I didn't play, or wasn't sure I was going to play. I knew the event started for me at 7:05 Pacific time. I knew roughly around 3 o'clock I was going to have full-time dad duties because my wife had to go somewhere, and she was already watching him, or helping watching him throughout the day, so that was why I was a little reluctant to play. But I was like, if it gets to that point and we have that luxury, right, of the luxury problem of, what do I do if I get to 3 o'clock and I'm in top 8? As it turns out, I just conceded. Like, it's okay. I'm okay with that. So, quick breakdown. I went 5-0 against Underground Sea, 2-1 against Ancient Tomb, and 0-1 against Upa in the Mirror. So for the total of 9 rounds. So quickly going through, I went 2-0 against Rescaminator, 2-0 against Painter, 2-0 against Doomsday, 2-0 against Tempo. I should have 2-0'd here against Rescaminator again. I threw game 1 for no reason. We can get into that later. That's probably the one big mistake that I had in the early rounds. That I threw game 1 for no reason. 2-0 here against Rescaminator. This was by far the hardest matchup in the early rounds for me, which is the Moon Stompy, because you cannot really stop what they're doing, at least game 1, and not great again in the post-board games even. You just have to hope to be on the play, which I was, game 1s and game 3. And then I lost the Mirror. This round 9 here was the one round where I played really poorly, and I don't know if it was fatigue or just I was over it. I did not play very well and I lost. I'm not sure I would have won game 1 even if I played well, but game 2 would have been a lot closer if I did. And then in the top 8 I just scooped because there was really no point for me to continue to make my wife wait for me as she needed to go somewhere. Okay, enough about that. So, quick thing about our list. This is a pretty stock list if you've been subbing to my Patreon. It plays 72 of the 75. The only card I played here that I had not discussed on Patreon was the Emperor of Bones. And I really kind of played it for fun because Upa recommended this card a while back to me. I just never got around to testing it. And initially there was one Spirit Guide here, one Elder Spirit Guide in the sideboard, and a Keen Eye Curator, but I was like not super in love with them. I just figured, okay, I'm just gonna get some testing done. If I lose, I lose, whatever. Not a big deal. And it was actually pretty solid throughout the day, specifically against the blue-black decks outside of Doomsday. So I was happy I registered them. They're not like, here to stay necessarily. Like, they're just some flex spots for the time being. I will talk more a little bit about that maybe in the future, but don't consider there was a lock or not. I think the big difference between what we're discussing here today and what was discussed on Minguchi's podcast is I've been loving the Safekeeper a lot, and for what's worth, Andrea also 5-0'd in his one league with the Safekeeper. Granted, that was like when he first picked up the deck. And Upa also played 3 copies, which I had 5-0'd with as well, like I think a week or 2 ago. And he and I have been in agreement, like, Reliquary plus Safekeeper is a really, really strong core of the deck that holds the core deck. Because if you untap with Reliquary, you will probably win. Like, that's just a fact. And here's another fact. I'll close this for a second. Actually, here's my content if you're interested. And you can find like the link to the Brews of Paradise podcast here, my Patreon. Here are my socials. Here's a link tree. Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and so on and so forth. Okay, let me see what else. I'll leave this there just in case. Close this. Okay, so if you will notice, there are more Sylvan Safekeepers, 2+3, than glaring Fleshrakers in the top 8. As crazy as that sounds, right? There's 4 glaring Fleshrakers and 5 Sylvan Safekeepers. So shout out to Ollie Rad. Hopefully I'm pronouncing his name or their name correctly. Okay. I guess that's enough for all this backdrop. We ended up, like I said, being the last set 2 possible 2 7-0s, and then we both made the top 8. We did not win it all, unfortunately, but 2 Cradle top 8s out of a 236 player event is pretty solid, I think, and pretty happy with the results considering I almost didn't even play. With that said, I guess we can go ahead. Oops. Close this. I guess we can go ahead and take a look at some of the matches. Alright, here's the first round, first game. I'm not even sure if all of these games are worth watching, but we'll just do so. Pretty solid hand. I just keep anything in the dark. Here I lead with a Bayou. In hindsight, I probably should just led with a fetch, but I figured they waste me off the second Reliquary is dead anyways. So, in case you top deck a Cradle, you benefit from playing the Bayou there. So here, Diego is going to waste me off the Bayou, and then that's kind of a problem and why I kind of regretted that decision. Here I drew another fetch, which is good. That's why we play the high fetch count, right? The other reason is, or it's a high land count, right? So we can just continue hitting land drops. I also want to hit or turn on Thoughtseize and Snuff Out post board as often as I can. So I'm pretty happy about this, right? Like the fact that Diego reanimated my Reclaimer tells me they probably don't have much action, and I'm just gonna go boom. Like I'll put you on a 1-turn clock in my eyes. Right? It's a must answer or you lose the game. And I think he has a removal spell here, if I remember correctly, but I don't remember. Okay, he did not. So in my mind, the game is already over. Like I've already wrapped it up in my mind. Like I'm not losing this game. Because I have active white. There's no way to beat it outside of maybe like a main board consign to shut off like Bog or something like that, like for the combo. And then here I'm just like locking things up even further, right? Like I'm making sure they don't like force a borrower on my white or whatever to like, to turn off my white on their turn to shut off Bog, right? So Safekeeper to protect the white. That's like mom, acts as a pseudo mom, right? So they waste the guy's Cradle. That's fine with me. I don't think I care. I'm going through this pretty quickly because what I've realized is I don't think I'm going to be able to teach people to sequence properly with this deck. I think it's one of those things you just have to put in the time. I don't think just watching me is going to make you a better sequencer. Maybe a little bit, but it's one of those things where you kind of have to see it and like get a feel for when is it correct to do certain things. So here, reanimate an Arbor, I don't even care, right? Like I just let that go, continue to just rotate for Cradles, eventually just grind out the opposing Reclaimer, right? Here, they're this is what we talked about earlier, right? Petty theft on our Reliquary, no, that's not happening. Like, our Mom protection kicks in, and then here, there's an argument to be made. Like, I'm supposed to just green sun for another white, but I think I just nuked their graveyard because I'm like, what do I potentially lose here? Maybe I don't know if they have like a Murktide or something. I don't think it really matters, to be honest, especially since I have natural order backup. I don't think it really matters. And Diego's a good enough player to know the writing's on the wall. All right, next game. Oops. Okay, so I open with double fairy. This is like pretty good hand. Feel free to drop questions also. I'm going to be giving out promo codes. So here, always lead with the turn 1 Dork, right? Like, even though Reclaimer, like, I mentioned on the podcast with Andrea, the games just look, and Andrea mentions this as well, the games just look so different when you lead with Dork. And even though this stops their combo, I think Reclaimer is not strong enough as a turn 1 play. Like, it's kind of your emergency turn 1 play. Here, we're going to, like, we have some mana now. We can just snowball the Reclaimer into, like, a Cradle. Psychic Frog, I don't think we really care. I pitch here because I want to turn on black for bones, right? So I play everything. The one thing this is a little bit weak to is like Wasteland into combo, but I have Fairy backup, so I'm not too concerned. I just let this go because I don't think I care about most of their draws. Sure. So I think we get a second basic, and I think we get maybe like a land or something, a Arbor, yeah. Here we green sun for 2. They force because they kind of have to. What if it's Curator, right? We eat their force, and then we're just gonna go on offense, like, and Diego blocks because they're on a 1 turn clock now, right? Again, the frog's gonna attack us, but we don't really care. Thank you for the sub, Harry. I'm a little bit nervous when Harry did that. I'm sorry, not Harry. Diego did that, but luckily we were able to fade their draws here, right? And even then, like, to be honest, I think we can even beat Atraxa because they're at a magic 7 life. We can just blink out their or phase out their Atraxa. Also, again, I'm giving out codes today, so make sure to stick around if you can. As always, if you catch any of my mistakes before I do, that's automatic promo code for 120 play points. So here, I think I just nuked their yard like with endurance, and I think that's just game, right? Like we have one turn where we were shields down, but even then, I think we beat some of those Atraxa reanimations based on triple Reclaimer. They had to pitch their Magus or their Harbinger. We could phase out the Atraxa, attack for exactly 7, which we had 7 power on board. So I think they would have to hit like Atraxa into like Lotus Petal Fatal Push or something like that. I think was like they're out. Alright. I think this matchup, like I said, if you don't get nut drawn, you're probably favored. Alright, next match. I think I'm just gonna. I'm hesitant to show the painter matchup. I don't think my painter player was didn't know the matchup very well, so I'm not sure we really get much from that matchup. So I think I'm just gonna skip that. Like, they made some plays that I think were a little suspect, so I'm just gonna go ahead and skip that. I think the Doomsday matchup might be worth watching for some players because I know a lot of people on our side struggle with this matchup. I know a lot of people on their side struggle with this matchup. I think the only players who consistently win this matchup are myself from our side and Mike Reed from the Doomsday side because we kind of know the choke points of both sides. And I think the reason why so many players struggle on both sides is because they just don't know the other deck. And I think unfortunately that is a big disservice regardless of which side of the Doomsday slash Cradle matchup you're on. Like, because if you don't know how your opponent's gonna react to your counterplay, I think you are a heavy underdog. All right, I mumbled. I think the hand was like not reasonable. I don't know what my opponent's on for what it's worth. Like, I just kept a generically good hand. Like, if I knew my opponent was on Doomsday, I'd probably just keep the endurance, right? I also, for what's worth, I'm not someone who really puts another person on a deck unless I'm like 100% sure, because I think you just develop bad habits doing that. But maybe I'm just too conservative with that, to be honest. Like, I don't, for one, really. Oh, it's XYZ username. They must be on XYZ. Or, like, I'm not. I don't really subscribe to that personally. So here, I'm gonna pause it real second. They made a Doomsday pile. I looked at their sideboard. It's like the tempo list that has been popularized by Mike recently. 4 Psychic Frogs, 4 Tamios. I think I checked for permission, and there's like no days, no force here. So unfortunately, my hand doesn't really do anything against them. So I just like tapped out, right? Like, it is what it is. Other key cards to look for besides permission is like what cyclers do they have or not have? Like Street Reef and Edge of Autumn are the popular ones. The Fatal Push there, like, I don't assume that they have X number in their deck, but like maybe I should have. This was an insane draw, and I think I lose, right? Like, if I don't top deck here. There's no reason for me to attack there, so I didn't. And then I endurance and response here, and we're gonna see. Like, I kind of got lucky this game one. Like, I'm gonna hit runner. I hit the endurance. I fetch end step to get the arbor to the deck thin, and then I'm gonna hit another hierarch that's gonna force a block. Yeah, so this force a block. They have to block. They block with the Oracle, which I don't agree with. I don't know how they piled it. Maybe they had no choice, but to me it seems correct to just like block with a Tameo. But that's me. Okay, and then they're just dead here because the Oracle, the second Oracle is just too many cards down now, right? Again, that one I will chalk it up to luck. I top deck exactly what I needed. Oops, wrong one. And you can say I got lucky twice there because the Hierarch was an insane top deck. Or maybe not insane, but a okay top deck. It's like one of my pseudo live draws. Obviously, you get natural or you win, but here, because they're on the tempo list, I just keep most generic hands. They have to respect that I can have, one of my 4 endurances or 4 Thoughtseizes anyways. So I just keep a generically good hand. They also like get pretty grindy. Hey, Dark Dog. And like, I don't think you just mold to oblivion against Doomsday or like some of these combo decks because most of them are resilient enough to beat one piece of hate. I realized I should have updated the name. I'll do that right now while this is going on. So I Thoughtseize. They force. Let me pause this. 1 second. Okay, the name is now correct. I apologize for the delay. Alright, so I just play on my board. I saved the green sun in case I need to. There's nothing to do there in case I need like endurance or whatnot. They take my green sun and they, you know, they didn't count the math on the board. They're like just dead to lethal here, right? Like I don't even need to do anything. I just put my lair and attack for a bunch. Not. I don't know what other pile they could have made. Just did not seem like that's the optimal pile personally. All right. Enough about that. I think this next round was another blue, psychic frog deck. And for those who haven't noticed, I get this question a lot. And if you're concerned about psychic frog, I think if you're just picking this deck up, I think it makes sense to try Andrea's list first with the fatal pushes and a dismember, and only two snuff outs. I don't think we have a psychic frog problem. And to back that up, I'm literally playing no removal for it. Like I just don't care. Psychic Frog loses straight up to Wild Reliquary. So if I untap with a White of the Reliquary, they're not going to win the game. Like that's just the fact. And that's why I'm hedging towards the Ancient Tomb matches with my 4 snuff outs. Like I want the best removal, and the more free spells I play, the better I think the deck is. Like I just don't care about Psychic Frog. Here, just too many bad things happening, so I just mull. Not an ideal 5, and unfortunately my once missed here too, I think. I think I missed off this. Okay, never mind. I did not miss, but I had the Hierarch. And also, I'm not the only one who believes we don't need removal for frog. Upa's list has 0 removal for frog as well, and playing 4 snuff outs as well. Because I just think the Ancient Tomb matchups are so swingy. You need in my opinion, if you expect to play against Ancient Tomb, you need to have the 4 snuff outs. Otherwise, the matchup will be very difficult. All right, that's the respect for the Once Upon a Time. I mean, excuse me. Our favorite girl here, the Wild Reliquary. Excuse me. Here I think want to main phase the endurance, if I recall. Oh, sorry, I take that back. Their shield's down, so there's no reason to not natural order there. And I think one of the most heads up play, I haven't had to do this yet. One of the most heads up play that I made was I'm not endurance on their end step, because otherwise they can chump block my Attractor and then win the game. Otherwise this matchup played out it's pretty straightforward how it played out, right? Like I'm gonna evoke the endurance here. I've never had to make this play before, but I need to connect with the Attractor. And now that shields are down for them, I take the Tamiyo. What they should have really done, to be honest, was try to draw into the daze. But I had a second endurance, so it wasn't going to matter. I think they might have known that hand, maybe that's why. Actually, they didn't. Okay, so again, pretty straightforward. I think the only thing there was be aware that Psychic Frog has flying and can block Atraxa in case you need to take down Tamiyo. And me evoking the endurance there, locked up the game. Alright, pretty straightforward. I'm going through this pretty quickly, but feel free to stop me if you have any questions. I realize some of you don't play this deck, or some of it's maybe not as obvious. So I can go over things in detail if you wish. But to me, some of these are pretty straightforward or easy enough to get if you watch a replay or something. You can just ask me to be honest. Something we mentioned on Andrea's podcast is when to play the Lair of the Hydra. If you are unsure play it turn 1. Like, there are scenarios where you're not supposed to, but if you don't know what those scenarios are, just default to this on turn 1. You will be more punished for not doing so. Here I just want full mana. Especially since I have, like, I can, again, double, triple stealth potentially next turn. And then, again, another opposing frog that, like, we just really don't care about. I would have. I guess they care about the lair. As a general rule of thumb, too, you want to maximize your mana every turn. So if you have 4 mana, you want to play 3+1. If you have 3 mana, you want to go 2 into 1. Like, you want your 1-drop to be the one that's susceptible to daze. Here I'm double blocking. They pump, sure. I think they kill one of our things, and then probably reanimate it. I think is what I remember them doing. Okay, they play a second frog. That's fine. They forced that. Now we feel pretty good. Like, I'm thinking about ways, like, if they had a fetch line, I probably don't attack because I don't want them to fetch, fatal push my endurance, and then I can't chump block, right? Like, we have plenty. Like, if you can get a chump block where it doesn't affect your mana, most of the time it's correct to do so. And here I have a second endurance. Like, I'm pretty ahead by this point. Like, you're behind from the other side where the Cradle player is starting to go on offense. Like, that, you're in serious trouble. Like, I'm looking to close the game now. Okay, they played one of their better draws here, which, because we're on the aggro plan, and that's probably one of their draws in this board state. In general, this card is not very good against us. Here, again, we're going on offense. I think we chump block here on the Beauregard, probably chumping the Arbor. Like, okay, we did this. They had the one good top deck that beats, because my thinking is we're going to trade, and I didn't think, I'm not going to play around top deck removal, which they did have, right? I was willing to trade the Beauregard with a second endurance, and they just had they drew the one counterplay, or one of the few counterplays to our hand here. There's an argument to me, man. I was supposed to chump block there. Actually, they had the Wasteland, so I couldn't do that. That was my line, though. And why I held back the endurance. There's an argument to me, man. I should just keep going on offense, but I wanted to get the Bargoyf off the board. While the Reliquary, they're on, again, 1 turn clock. They don't deal with it, the game's over. Okay, this is the desperation psychic frog draw now, right? Like, you don't draw when you need, the game's over. And they whiff and they conceded. Yeah. Again, 1 turn clock. It's the closest card I've ever seen. Besides, I guess in some ways, Psychic Frog is like kind of like this, except I think it's stronger than Psychic Frog. At least in the, not in a vacuum, but in the context of our deck. It's like, it's the closest thing I've seen to Dreadhorde, where if you untap, the game's over. There's only certain cards that can beat it after untapping. Besides, like, Sweeper's not even good enough a lot of times because it can just phase out. One of the few cards that can beat it is like Dress Down. Another one is like a Pithing Needle. Those are like the 2 pseudo commonly played cards that can maybe answer it, but most of the time it's just lights out. if you've seen somebody lose with an active white and they weren't comboed, it is most likely they misplayed somewhere along the way. Like myself included. Like I have lost games with white because I misplayed. But in general, you're not supposed to lose outside of being comboed out or to one of those two cards I mentioned, right? Like a Pithing Needle on white can be annoying, or like a Dress Down can deal with it. Okay, I'm gonna pause for a second. This game I punted for no reason. Like they brainstorm and I endurance in response. If I have only one endurance, there's an argument to be made. I'm supposed to just play around days of force there. However, I had the second one. Like there was really no reason for me to do that. I just like threw the one game in my first 7 rounds for no reason here. Like I had the game pretty much locked up and I lost this game because I just like had a brain fart. The game's over here. All right, next one. Luckily, I was able to clutch games 2 and 3. But I really should have won game 1. And I just like brain farted for no reason because I was thinking about the scenario where I have 1 endurance. If you have 1, it makes some sense to play around force and days. However, in response to the brainstorm, but because I have 2, there's really no reason. Especially since I don't play around days anyways. Because I hard casted the other one. Now, I opened with endurance. It's pretty reasonable. I think I keep, yeah. I ramp on turn 1. Probably fetch Bayou because I want to turn on the white. I don't remember how this game played out. I think this is a game where I just like had active white and they lost. Yeah, I'm like, if you're unsure what to lead with, in general with this deck, just lead with a more powerful card. Like that's why the Reliquary. Did I get a fetch here? I did. I was lucky. Yeah, see, like, I'm just like jamming threats. Like this is like not that different from playing Moon Stompy. Like, just go bomb, bomb, bomb. Like how many bombs in a row can they stop? Here, I think they go for the reanimation spell. We have the endurance. They don't have the days or the force, luckily. And the fact that they didn't have it here, in my opinion, the game's over now. Like I needed to dodge days and force plus pitch there, and I did. And untap white, that's game. Okay, so I did this a few times, like by accident. I didn't have the stop here. I kept clicking through my attack. Luckily, it didn't matter. Yeah, they concede on this, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, okay. Next. So that's one thing I need to like change. I kept clicking through my attacks. Like, I played one league with Bone, and like I said, I kept clicking through my attacks because I didn't have this this stop before. So after this match, I'm 5-0 and only dropped 1 game so far. And really that 1 game, I should have won. I kept a slow-ish hand, but I felt good with the fairy. This hand is like quite slow. And I drew lands, but we got there. Again, we drew a second land. Here there's really no reason to do anything. I'm just going to pass and hold up endurance. This is like, for what it's worth, this is like on the bad side for us too, with respect to possible hands we can have. Like we needed to not draw 2 lands in a row. Here I'm just trying to lock up the game, right? I kind of assumed this is gonna get forced or killed, but we had to start grinding out their hand, like disruption, right? We can't just like play defense forever. I'm expecting that to die, but you know, it is what it is. We don't have much of a clock, which is why I dealt with Troll. Sometimes I would just let this resolve because we don't always lose to Troll. Like, Troll is a card we can easily beat, and I just happen to deal with it there because this is not the hand that is going to be Troll, unfortunately. Like, just all lands in hand is not where is how we beat Troll. At least not Troll backed by like 6 cards, right? I think they reanimate here, but I could be wrong. Yes, they did. So they forced this, I believe. Yep. And now they've got us on a 3-turn clock, sort of. We can triple block in an emergency, but not too concerned. They're also at 10, so at this point, we can race potentially with the endurance, like with Exalted. This is why Exalted is so important in this deck. Like, I get asked questions sometimes, like, "Oh, what about Birds of Paradise?" I think Birds of Paradise is a lot worse than Noble, personally. And if you play this deck, you will see that. Like, not being able to attack, especially like against Planeswalkers, is a disaster. We take it because we don't care. We're gonna end step like Endurance. We're gonna try to race. Luckily, they go for the reanimation spell on our Endurance to increase their clock. This is a counter spell right here, right? Like, we hit the reanimate. We have a clock of our own, like just a huge swing. We're gonna bash here for 4 and see what they do. We boarded out Traxxas, so I'm just gonna like green some for Wild Reliquary probably. Yeah, that looks like what I'm doing here. We're going for a 1-turn clock again, right? Like, you untap with this, it's game. The attack, I don't think we care. Just go to 5, not a big deal. I think we drew Talon Gates here. Yeah. So we're going to phase out the Frog and just attack for lethal. It doesn't really matter. We're just like miles ahead anyways. Like, if we don't draw the Talon Gates here, the line would have been... we can't attack with the white because we need to phase out the Troll. So we would have attacked with the Endurance. They are probably not going to block. Maybe they block. I don't know. But if they don't block, they go to 1. And then we phase this out. They can draw whatever they need to draw. It's not going to really matter. Like, we're just gonna. It's gonna get there. Like, if we didn't kill this turn. All right, next. This matchup, again, more, Underground Sea players. Again, I lead with the Bayou here because in case we top deck a Cradle, I want to save the fetch for Arbor, which is like pretty huge. That's the other reason why I haven't felt like I needed Underground Mortuary, because Arbor's generally just as good in most situations. Alright, so white sticks, we're going to get a Reclaimer. They forced, interestingly enough, the Reclaimer. That tells me they probably have removal for white, because why would they let it resolve? Yeah, there's the removal. And then, ideally you draw another land here, you just go boom, boom, double spell again. That's almost better than a land, because you have the green pitch for the Endurance, but later on you can just protect the Wild Reliquary too. So I know they're on... Let me stop for a second. The reason why I didn't play the Safekeeper there is because they forced the Reclaimer. That tells me they're on Entomb instead of just Tempo, because... Like, why else would they force a Reclaimer, right? Instead of... They have the Fatal Push. Like, I did not put them on Tempo. I just put them on Combo. So I wanted to save the pitch for Endurance, because I think if this resolves, we win the game anyway. So, like, we're going to Shields down for 1 turn, and they had 1 mana up, so we either choose to play around Daze or we choose to play around Removal. And there I'm just going to choose to play around Daze. If they have a second removal spell, so be it, right? Like, I'm not going to... I don't want to get a 2-drop Dazed if I can avoid it. And here, we play the Bones, we play the Safekeeper, we have Shields up for everything. The game is, again, virtually over already. Like the so far the key what the trend here is like we've run into a bunch of frogs and they just can't are no match for our Wild Reliquary. Like just taking over the game, right? Like they just can't profitably block. Yeah, this game was not close. All right, next game. I think what I'm gonna do here is like I'm gonna give out some promo codes tonight for anybody who is active in the Twitch chat. So make it easier tonight. So probably to Darth Dog, to some of these other people. So they force the white. I mean, they have no choice, right? Like, if they don't have the removal spell, it's game. So they reanimate our white of the Reliquary, which is a curious decision because I don't think they get the benefits out of the white compared to us. I think I'm going to slam. They daze. That's okay with me. Like, I'm just looking to end the game, right? Like, every time possible, I'm looking to put my opponent on one turn clock. And then we just do the same thing over and over, right? Like our deck is super redundant. Like everything is like either you natural order them to death with Atraxa, or you put them on a one-turn clock with Wild Reliquary. And then here, game, right? Like, oh, I have the protection now for the white. Like the game's over, in my opinion. It's literally Golgari Dreadhorde. And then here we're just gonna DGAF, like we're gonna go on offense, right? The reason why it's so strong compared to Night of the Reliquary is the vigilance makes it so that if you follow sports, Wild of the Reliquary is the closest thing we have to a two-way player. Like offense, defense just does it all. And here I'm just gonna phase out the frog. This looks silly, right? This looks so silly in the face of a Wild of the Reliquary. Again, we're just gonna go to town here. And then we even have Safekeeper backup, so we're not even afraid to tap if we need to. Here I'm just gonna like play around whatever. Like I want this to resolve. I'm gonna play around force draw because I'm playing to the board. I don't think they can beat our board. Like they're like so far behind. It's crazy. Again, we're not afraid to tap. That's why Safekeeper's insane with Wild Reliquary, right? It's like we're playing a combo deck against them, and they just have no answer for this. Like, these games don't look close. Now, here's where the games get close, like the Ancient Tomb decks. I was fortunate enough I was on the play. Because this matchup is pretty difficult otherwise. We have to build a time machine, Jonathan, to go back in time for the Fiend Artisan. You missed it. I was making quick work of these blue mages. I was punishing these blue players. Speaking of which, since we have my boy Jonathan here, you know, blue got too much this year in the sense that they got like these imitation Wild the Reliquaries, Nadu and what is it? And Frog, right? But yeah, Frog looking very meek versus Wild the Reliquary. So we saw like 5 frogs so far go against heads up against Wild the Reliquary, and it was just not close every time. Like Wild the Reliquary just takes over the game. So this matchup is hard. And we were fortunate we got to go first. And I even missed a land drop here. Here, my thinking was if they had Fury, they would have played it already. So I'm just going to go all in and hope I get to resolve Natural Order. Like, I would guess my opponent would Fury my Hierarch and my Collective and set me back to, the Stone Age, right? And they didn't. So I'm just going to go all in and just, like, hope I can resolve a Fury. Sorry, resolve a Natural Order. Here, heads up play from my opponent. They kill the Hierarch to set me back on the second green mana for Natural Order because that's the way they die, right? That's how they would die here. Here I'm looking to I need to get this thing off the board. Like, this is one way I lose the game. So I'm just, like, setting everybody back, and I'm going to, like, quad block if need be. It's probably the Pyro Goyf. Yeah, see, here I'm just, like, throwing everything in the way. I need to get this off the board. If you had told me at this point this is what the board state looks like, I would not pick myself to win. Like, this doesn't look great for us personally. Especially with that. So we make the only play that makes sense. This was an insane draw for us. So we got a Tarmogoyf in play. And if you know anything about Tarmogoyf, Stompy decks have had trouble against Tarmogoyf, historically speaking. So this is a 5/6, can't even kill white. And not to mention we have a safekeeper, it's not going to matter. The reason why I got white instead of trying to get Natural Order is because if they have removal, we're going to have to sack a land anyway, so that sets us back. And here, we're just going to, like, go on offense again. Jonathan would appreciate this reference, right? This is your two-way player. This was, like, pretty annoying, but, like, I just, like, sacked what I could and then just, got a land. I was lucky I was able to fade another source here because if they copied away Kikijiki, we lose the game. Like, we needed to fade another red source so they can't copy, right? And then here we were lucky to draw the fourth land for the Natural Order and then finally put lethal on the board. So very close. I'm a little bit nervous about this matchup, like I said, but we got there game one. Game two, you will see we got obliterated because we were on the draw. Yeah, this game here was not close. And, outside the one punt we had earlier for no reason, this is the one game we truly lost in the first 7 rounds. Yeah, unfortunately, like I said, the Ancient 2 matchups are just so volatile. Like, whoever goes first has a ginormous advantage. And even then, like, we had that big advantage game 1, and it was still kind of close. But here, they had the advantage game 2, and we were really never in this game. Like, this is gross. Like, we can't stop it either. Here, I'm just making the most powerful play I can. And I need to hope my opponent does not have an answer because there's a ticking time bomb here in this Kikijiki already. So I just have to, like, hope my opponent can give me one turn off. And unfortunately, that did not happen. So, like, this game is never close. Like, I needed to breathe here, and I couldn't breathe. I needed, like I said, to have one turn off from my opponent. Like, just like bombs every turn. And then we're just like, we can't beat this, right? I can beat, or I have beat Kiki Jiki copying Fury or Pyro Gorth before, but not when we're this far behind. Like, it's possible to beat this, and I have, especially with Wild Reliquary, but not when you're this behind. Alright, that's, yeah, we're never close. Here, I'm going to play around the turn 1 Blood Moon. If they have turn 1 something like, which they do here, they're going to go turn 1, the Bombardiers, and I can't snuff out, but I'd rather not just lose to Blood Moon. So I'm okay with this happening. Like, they use up a lot of resource doing that. I think here we just go turn 2 Wild Reliquary, just like put you on a 1-turn clock, so to speak, right? Here we're going to snuff out. There we go. Here, the reason why I'm not playing another Wire or the Reliquary there is because I want to sack something. So I just want to go 2 1-drops here. And just like, the offense is insane with Wire the Reliquary, right? It's like a supercharged Sulfuric Vortex every turn. They can't stop it. The thing that does stop Wild Reliquary from attacking is something like a Glaring Flesh Raker, which lines up well against Wild Reliquary because you just make these spawn tokens and you can't get through. So these go wide strategies can occasionally be good against Wild Reliquary if I'm trying to be, give it some flaws, so to speak, right? This is just an absurd draw here. Yeah, just an absurd protection spell. If we did not draw Snuff Out, what we could have done was just phase out the Bombardiers in case they try to attack us or something like that. I think we would have attacked. We would have let them attack. If they try to kill our thing, we could just phase it out. Then they lose whatever they lose. I guess. I'm trying to think if it's better for them to stop the attack or free is so for. I agree. So like, I think the likely scenario is we just protect our thing once the Bombardiers targets it, and then kill them on the crackback, right? Like, we're going to we can double block if need be, but if we need to, we'll phase out our land, tile engates one of our creatures so it doesn't die, and then kill them on the crackback. So that's the line there. But Snuff Out was obscene here. Alright, so my undefeated run ends there at 7-0. At this point, I pair into Upa, and as you will see, his list is better for the mirror. I would not play his list just for the mirror, but it is one benefit of his list. So he has a small combo in the sideboard. I actually get game 1 here because I'm on the play, right? I didn't really do anything special, to be honest. I just mulliganed because I had no acceleration and just hope to top deck well here. I pick up a second land and then I just like ramp. I felt like my opening hand was too slow. I know I'm going through this quickly, but again, you can review if need be. Here, again, I'm putting white. Sorry, I take that back. We drew the natural order, so I just want to ramp. Right? I want to kill my opponent quickly as possible because there's no interaction game 1. And Upa jokes in chat, I smell a hoof coming. We actually draw the Cradle hoof here. So I get the Atraxa. And we actually don't hit the guy's Cradle either. But that's okay because our line here is we're going to Talon Gates if they go for lethal. Upa's smart enough. He has I smell a natural order coming from his side anyways. He's going to go for an Atraxa because, again, he knows the tricks that we can do. So he's not going to go for a hook that's not lethal. And we have the hook, the kill on the crackback. That extra land was actually pretty important because it made it lethal. I don't know if it was lethal without it, but it's going to be close. Alright, next game. To be honest, the mirror is not that interesting, but I'm just going to play it out just to showcase the power of Upa's sideboard, which is the Smog plan. Again, my personal thing is, I think the Smog plan is pretty cool. I am never someone who advocates for playing something for the mirror when nobody plays our deck, literally. Like, I don't play events usually. Upa usually doesn't play. So unless you expect to somehow pair into Andrea, you're never going to run into a Cradle player. Like, here I ramp because I'm not afraid of anything that Upa's going to do a turn 2. I'm just going to Thoughtseize whatever he doesn't play. Because the Natural Order and Chain of Smog are the scariest cards. Unfortunately, his hand is ultra redundant, as you will see. So 2 of each. I take the Smog because I'm hoping Upa misses a land drop, and then I top deck. My out is he misses the land drop, I top deck another Thoughtseize. And he sort of misses because this doesn't create black. So his hand right now looks like this. I go for the Hail Mary Natural Order. And I need to hit a Thoughtseize here, and I did not. Heads up play from Upa here. He knows my line is snuff out the black source into phase out the Witherbloom command. So he smartly Talon Gates my Reclaimer out so that clears the way for him. And I even told him so. That's a heads up play. And then he has a game here now. Kind of like Eli is the only one still playing Goblin. I see, actually, I think more Goblin players than Cradle players, but I could be wrong. I feel like the Goblin fan base is like pretty big. Let me pause it real quick. So here we see Witherbloom command. I think Upa has both parts of the combo, so I have to kind of take the Witherbloom command, right? Because Smog doesn't really do anything by itself. The one issue with my hand is very reactive here. I mulligan the first hand because I know my opponent has more, like, oops, I win cards, so to speak, than me. Here I'm just going to fire out the Snuff Out because I have a second one. At this point, their hand looks like this. And then I think there's another Witherbloom. So I'm the writing of, sorry, not a Witherbloom, Green Sun. I think here I just, like, get another Reliquary, and then I probably just snuff this natural this Hierarch out because Natural Order is looming. It's just too threat dense, if that makes sense, right? Like, everything's a must answer. I just like don't have enough answers, and not enough a proactive enough kill. So I'm on a 1 turn clock here, and then it's game, yeah. All right, one more match. This is the one round I truly played horribly. So I'm 7-1 now, and I'm likely still in. I have the highest tiebreakers. I have the highest tiebreaker because I'm number 2 seed at this point. So I'm likely in, but it's not guaranteed. I needed to lock it up, and unfortunately, this was by far the worst I played. Luckily, I still got in because I had the best tiebreakers. I didn't know what my opponent was on, but again, a generically good hand. Yes, turn 3 attracts it, right? This review is going by pretty quickly, surprisingly. I haven't messed up yet, in my opinion, but probably mistakes. There are a ton in the second game because I guess I was just tired. I just made a ton of mistakes. It also didn't help that I drew pretty poorly here. I drew both natural order targets, and then I played the Reclaimer and the Chalice. Actually, let me pause for a second. Yeah. I played the Reclaimer and the Chalice to grow the Wild Reliquary. That was intentional. I don't have out to Chalice game 1 anyways, nor do I really care for it. Here I green some for 1 because unfortunately I drew the Atraxa and Hoof, so the natural order is dead, but if I need to pitch a creature, I'd rather pitch the Hierarch than a Wild Reliquary. My opponent gave me plenty of chances. I just the deck was not cooperating this round. Here they should have waste. I don't remember if they did. I feel like they did not. My opponent's supposed to fire off that wasteland right there. Again, I want to save the Wild Reliquary because it's going to grow. I'm going to be forced to block the Destiny here and kill their Glaring Fleshraker. But I really lost this game when I drew the Atraxa. So they attack with the Fleshraker. I'm going to phase out the thing. Now, I have to kill the Fleshraker, otherwise I'm going to get drained out. Yeah, so at this point, this is the turn I probably would have cast Natural Order if I had not drawn Atraxa. Unfortunately, it wasn't meant to be, right? My opponent gave me, to be fair, my opponent misplayed too, so I might not have not been in this game if it weren't for the, I might not have been, if they used their Wasteland like they were supposed to, but this is what cost me the game. The drawing of the Natural Order targets, both of them. Well, one of them I already had in hand, but it is what it is. And here it's just game. We're just too far behind, right? We need to have at least one of the Natural Order targets back in the deck, and we did not. Alright, here is the game. The one game I would say... So I played okay there. But here's the one game in this event I just played horrendously. Luckily, I didn't get punished in the sense that I made top 8 anyways, because I had the highest tiebreakers, but again, not... We'll share just for the exercise, but see, our opponent boarded in Leyline the Void against us. They're just down a card for no reason, right? I think in hindsight, maybe I keep that Snuff hand, but it didn't really do anything in my opinion, and I don't really like spending mana on the second Once Upon a Time. And this is fine. I have a second Natural. Unfortunately, they have a TKS on turn 2. So I'm playing okay so far, but the mistakes are gonna pile up pretty soon. And part of me was like, oh, this game's over anyway, so I kind of like mentally checked out here. So here's the first mistake I made. I should have played a land. Sorry, I should have played the Cradle. Like, I was gonna get a Green Sun for 2 for a Wild Reliquary. There's an argument to be made. I'm just supposed to hold it because Eldrazi is strangely one of the decks that white does not line up particularly well against because of all the chunk blocks from Glaring Fleshraker. So there's an argument to be made I'm supposed to hold it. If you play it, a Fiend Artisan would have been nice to have in this situation, but the huge misplay is not having the Cradle because I needed to play the Cradle so I could hold up Reclaimer, protect the Wild Reliquary, and if they don't do anything, I can go ahead and rotate for a Lair. Instead, I lose this for no reason. Yeah, see, like, I lose the Wild Reliquary here for no reason because I didn't play the Cradle. There's gonna be more mistakes. Like, maybe I was tired. I don't know, but this round it felt like I made a ton of mistakes, or this particular game. I'm already pretty behind here, but it is what it is. I think the only thing interesting about this game is perhaps I'm supposed to keep the opening hand for game 2. I'll look at it again to see. I don't remember what it was. Here I'm dead, right, to Fleshbreaker. Like, Snuff Out is super important in this matchup, and maybe I just keep it even though the rest of the hand is not great. Like, I'm just so far behind here. Okay, so they kill that. They attack me for 5. I'm like forced to block. Attrax is my only out at this point. Yeah. Alright, that's game. I might have made more mistakes. I don't even know. But I think the only thing I want to just double check real quickly is what our opening hand was. And stay tuned. I'm going to give out promo codes right now. Oops. I think it was Once Upon a Time, Arbor, and Snuff Out. Maybe that's a keep. I don't know. Like, didn't seem great to me, but Snuff Out is a premium card in this matchup. So, 3 lands. This has to get, Bayou. The Arbor, that's bad. The Once, that's like pretty sketch as well. I don't fault myself for mulling, and then I keep a natural. Like, I think it's fine that I mulligan. It's like this is like a pseudo mode of 5 already, right? Like, this is not gonna be turned on for a while, and then this is like a mull. In this situation, at least. Actually, the counter argument is: are there much 6s better than this? Probably not. Or at least this is okay. I would probably keep on the 6, but this is not great, right? It's like 1, 2, 3 lands. You have 1 land too many, and then this is like this is like a mode of 5 already. All right. Let's close this. Like I said, I scooped the top 8 match to Upa. I'm gonna start handing out promo codes now. So, 1 second. I'm going to go in reverse chronological order and just send out to your, I'm going to message you. Actually, let's do this. I'll make it easier. If you message me right now, you will get the promo code on Twitch. Let's make it easy. Then I know you want it, right? I don't want to send it to somebody who doesn't want it. Not right. So just whisper to me, and I will send out one for 120 play points. The reason why you can't send it here is because then everybody sees it. So our first code has been redeemed by I guess by Harry. So there you go. I will do 5 right now. This is like a cool stream, right? And it's first come, first serve basis here. 1 second. Okay. Second code has been redeemed by Build or Burn. 3 more. So thank you for subbing Harry tonight. Build or Burn, thank you for hanging out. If anybody here would like a promo code, I still have 3 to give. You know, this is on a first come, first serve basis, just because I'm in a great mood, right? And I have plenty to spare, I guess. Just if you could do me a favor and submit it on MTGO now. I just want confirmation that it works. I believe it should work. Actually, between Harry and yeah, if you can do that, that would be great. And then if nobody else redeems, the first person who confirmed that it works, I'll give a second code. It worked. Okay, that's Harry. So here you go, Harry. You get your second one for being a team player here. Thank you. All right, we have 2 more. Anybody else looking to get these 120 play points for MTGO? For those who are tuning in right now, I am giving up free play points. Otherwise, let's bring up the deck again. Appreciate you, checking that for me, Harry. Here's the list I played again. Again, I'm gonna mention that so if you want, just whisper to me, and I still have 2 more to give out. Nobody seems to want it besides Harry and Build or Burn. But here's the list I played. Here's the list Upa played. And the main deck is 59 out of 60 the same. The only difference is I had the first Emperor, which was his suggestion anyways, and he has the third Safekeeper, which I played over in the past. Let's do a quick... I think this might be the one. Nope, not the right one. So I played like 3 Safekeeper. No, also not the right one. So I played 3 Safekeepers and 3 Reclaimers in the past. I just think Reclaimer should be a 4. I think 3 Safekeepers is fine, but that's thank you for the raid, DMV Legacy League. I just mentioned, and this is gonna go quickly, I have 2 more promo codes that I can give out for 120 play points. If you are interested, please whisper to me now via Twitch chat. So it's been redeemed by 3 have been redeemed. I have 2 more to give, but thank you for the raid, DMV Legacy League. And I'm just going over I'm wrapping up right now, but okay. Bob has got the 4th one. So last call. I just sent it to Lego Bob, but I'm going over the difference between the 2 top 8, Cradle lists. And for those of you tuning in from DMV Legacy League, Upa and myself were the last 2 undefeateds in this 236 player event. Like, we were both 7-0 and then just paired into each other. Upa won the mirror. I mentioned earlier, if you do play this list that Upa has in the sideboard, it is better for the mirror, but I wouldn't play it just for the mirror. I think if you want just a sideboard juke, then it's nice, but we have an honor code in the Cradle community that we don't play cards just for the mirror. If it happens to be good in the mirror, that's fine, but that's dishonorable thing to do, right? To tech for the mirror. He did not do that. So he wanted to play this for fun, as I mentioned earlier. For those of you tuning in, for those tuning in, I actually played this for fun today. Or not today, yesterday. Before the event, I had only registered this in one league, so I didn't have much sampling to go off. But I thought it was good enough to try again, and I was kind of just playing for fun, anyways. I didn't expect to top 8 when I was, registering the last minute. But lo and behold, the person who convinced me to register last minute, both he and I were the last 2 undefeateds, and we both top 8'd. Unfortunately, we got the wrong matches because I paired into him in the top 8, so I just conceded because I need to do dad duties anyways. And then he paired into, I think, the one matchup that is probably very difficult for us, which is Dragon Stompy, which I did beat in round 7 to go undefeated up until that point. But his list is a little bit weaker, I think, to Moon Stompy than mine, because there's no Force of Vigor, and there's a lot of black cards here that are susceptible to just getting mooned out of the game, right? Anybody from DMV Legacy League have any questions? And I do have one more promo code. If nobody claims it, it will just go to the next time, right? Like, I will save it for another stream. But anybody have any questions? Actually, here are my socials once again, and then quick admin thing again. I think I would recommend, if you want to watch this video or enjoy this deck, I would also recommend watching Andre Mangucci's podcast with me as a guest host. We go over this deck in depth, and it's only a week old, so most of what we go over is pretty relevant still. I also have a podcast with what's called Killaby Benedict, who finished second in the Super Qualifier, along with Tony Scapone and Matt, Punishing Waterfalls Matt. So the 4 of us are part of the Brews of Paradise podcast. And if you enjoy, deck building, I would give it a shot. DSIT. Okay, the last code will go to DSIT. So going, gone. I am sending DSIT the code right now. Thank you everyone for hanging out, and anybody have any last questions? I think I went through this this event rather quickly. It is pretty cool to see, like I joked earlier, more Sylvan Safekeepers. Shout out Ollie Rad, right? Hopefully I'm pronouncing his name correctly. More Sylvan Safekeepers in this top 8, 5, than Glaring Fleshbreakers. I know, it's a human wizard. A honorary elf, though. Honorary elf. Alright, anybody, any last questions? I think if you watch this, if you tuned in late, if you watch this, maybe replay, there's one big takeaway from, I think, the stream. I said it multiple times during the stream, and hopefully it was not, bombarding too much, but one of the reasons why Upa registered 3 Safekeepers, and I have in the past, I only played 2 for the event, only 2, right? This is more than any other deck, right? No other deck plays 2 Safekeepers, and we're running 2 to 3. Is because this is a broken card, and arguably, not in a vacuum, but in our shell, arguably the best creature in Legacy, in my opinion. And we saw why the Reliquary go heads up against Frog, I think 5 different times during the event, or the recap, and it wasn't particularly close. Every time we untap with a Reliquary, every time we untap with Wide of the Reliquary, the game was literally over. The exception to that was Eldrazi, which is a little bit different because they have a combo kill of their own, and this card doesn't protect you from getting comboed out. In any remotely fair or even graveyard matchup based deck, if you untap with white, it is game over. And we saw that 5 different times during the event, most of which were staring down an opposing Psychic Frog, which many want banned, and I think many people think this is the strongest creature in Legacy, but at least going heads up against Wild Reliquary, it wasn't particularly close. Wild Reliquary put the handcuffs on Psychic Frog every single time, and maybe they drew 1, maybe they drew twice. Long story short, they can draw 2 times, Their cards are worse than ours on average, like at least for the relevant matchup. And the minute we got, went on offense with Wilder Reliquary, it was a pseudo one-turn clock. Like, can you answer Wilder Reliquary in one turn? Otherwise, the game is over. And we saw that like five different times during the stream. If you don't believe me and are tuning in, from the DMB Legacy stream, feel free to watch this. Like, I would encourage you. Like I said, I don't think it was close. Like every time outside the Eldrazi matchup at the end, every time we untapped with Wilder Reliquary, it was game over. All right. Any recommendations for a raid? All right. If there are no recommendations, I will go ahead and raid Young Peasy 420. All right. Thank you for hanging out today. Here are my socials once again.